Welcome to the College Football Bros. I'm Michael Newman.
I'm Ryan Newman.
And I'm Trey Newman.
We have finally made it to the SEC in our head coach rankings week. If you haven't already, be sure to check out the other conference rankings in our feed and also subscribe, because next week we're going to have an episode where we rank the top 20 coaches overall in college football, and might be a few SEC coaches on that list.
Yeah, quite a few.
Let's start, though, with the worst coach in the SEC for now. Just getting started there, but Ryan, who do we have?
Yeah, that's going to be tough hole to climb out of. That is Clark Lee at Vanderbilt. 2-10 in his first year there. They barely got those 2 wins versus Colorado State and the powerhouse UConn team. Those were very close games. They did lose by 20 to East Tennessee State. That was not good. So dead last on the field, dead last in recruiting in the conference.
But
it's
improved
tough
recruiting. Improved.
Oh, but still dead last.
Okay. All right.
He was good as the defensive coordinator at Notre Dame, but it's just, I don't know. How do you put him higher than this?
Yep, you can't. All right, so number 13, we have Shane Beamer of South Carolina. And after the season the Gamecocks had last year, you almost naturally think Beamer might be a little bit higher on this list, but the list is just, it's so deep. I did like how the team rallied around him. They won the Mayo Bowl, but really most metrics indicated that they weren't all that great. But hey, he maximized their production. Good for him. Now they got Spencer Rattler coming in. Still have quite a ladder to climb, but to get the Gamecocks in the mix. But I'll be interested to see kind of what he does in the next season or two. Even though he's low on this list, I'd still be pretty excited as a Gamecock fan.
I had him a spot higher.
Fair. Yeah. I mean, if you're a South Carolina fan right now, you're feeling great about Shane Beamer, and that's pretty much everybody on this list, I would say, is feeling great about their head coach, except for number 12,
Except this guy.
Bryan Harsin at Auburn. Did a good job at Boise State, but he inherited such a steady program there that, Dirk Cutter, Dan Hawkins, Chris Peterson, everyone had been winning, and he continued it, but it's hard to know how much to value that. So looking a lot at what he's doing at Auburn, and first year on the field wasn't very good, 6-7. Recruiting was their worst recruiting ranking in 13 years. So not a lot positive to say. And of course, this past offseason, apparently he didn't make friends with the right people, because there was a kind of a movement to try and get him fired. Didn't work, but certainly didn't help his reputation or his ability to recruit there moving forward, which already wasn't going well, the recruiting aspect. So
he's hamstrung now. That's tough, man. All right, let's move on, though, to number 11. We have Eli Drinkwitz from Missouri. He was 12-1 in his 1 year at App State, so he got off to a good start as a head coach. He's got a good history as being an offensive coordinator, including at NC State. And here at Mizzou, 2 bowl games in 2 years. They barely made him, but they made him. He's done a good job, though, I'll say, with recruiting. He's got the number 15 class coming in this year, including the number 3 overall player, a wide receiver, Luther Burden from East St. Louis. So us putting him at 11th is not, is not indicative of saying or it's not us trying to say he's a bad coach. That's, in this tough conference, that's actually respectable. I mean, I think he could do a good job there. It's just, when you look at it, it's just so hard to rank these guys. There's so many good ones.
Yep. All right, moving on to number 10, Josh Heupel of Tennessee. He probably has the potential, I think, to move the most on this list next year if Tennessee can match or exceed some of the high expectations that they have upcoming. But no matter what, you have to give him credit. Kind of most labeled this hire as no win for him or Tennessee with potential sanctions, and he was kind of low on their list. He was viewed as that stepping stone coach, but man, he made Tennessee's offense very potent. Should be really strong again this year with Hendon Hooker. He also had 2 double-digit wins previous at UCF to factor in. So Heupel's pretty solid at number 10.
Yeah, and the biggest question with him maybe heading into the job was recruiting, and now with the NIL collective, that doesn't seem like it'll be a big problem. We'll see. But Number 9 on our list is Mike Leach, at Mississippi State. Obviously did a great job at Texas Tech and Washington State. And at Mississippi State, I'd say it's too early to draw any conclusions, but does seem to have them headed in a good direction. I think the reason he's so low on this list is that the guys above him all have higher upside, in my opinion. Mike Leach has proven he can get above average results at below average programs, but I think there's a reason no really elite programs have been super interested in him. I question his upside in terms of recruiting.
I want to see him at a higher school because he's done so well with these low schools, which is why I had him higher than you guys. I put him at 6th. He's been a head coach for 20 years now. That in and of itself is a heck of an accomplishment, just being a head coach for that many years. And in those 20 years, he's only missed a bowl game twice. But then you consider the fact he's been at Texas Tech and Wazoo and even Mississippi State. Just that's amazing. Just 2 of those years, considering those programs and how hard it is to win at those programs. And now, currently, we're talking about Mississippi State. I like him coming and to keep improving. Will Rogers is coming back. He had a great year last year and kept getting better and better. They did go 7-6 last year. They had 3 losses by a field goal or less. I would, if you look back at his Texas Tech tenure and his Wazoo tenure, it took him 2 to 3 years before he really got the ball rolling at each school. I really don't see why he's not going to do that in Mississippi State. The recruiting is good enough. Like you said, he doesn't recruit elite, but his recruiting is a little different. He knows what he's doing, but it's good enough to where he can have that Mike Leach effect and get them to 8-ish wins, and every handful of years just really have a good year.
Yeah, and I think 9th, like we said, we keep saying, but it's pretty good. He's ahead of some guys I feel pretty good about.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, let's move on to number 8, a guy who's really jumped up from where he was a couple of years back, even last year. Sam Pittman at Arkansas. 9-4 this past season, a very strong year. Even followed that up after a good first year that he had, even though the record didn't really show it. But they were a much improved team even in Pittman's first year. Recruiting has been pretty solid. It's not maybe elite, but they are off to a good start for the 2023 class, which is encouraging. Now they seem to have found their quarterback, KJ Jefferson, so he's coming back this year. He had a great year last year, helping them lead to 9 wins. So I think they're going to have another solid team. I'm not sure if he can replicate 9, but in a short amount of time, he's done a good job turning around his image and the Arkansas program.
Yeah, but I think the biggest thing for him is he's done a very good job surrounding himself with good coordinators and good coaches. So you have to like the trajectory that he's put them on, considering he didn't inherit a whole lot. So we're just going to kind of see if 9 wins is his ceiling or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see when Kendall Briles takes another head coaching job. Or, Barry Odom seems happy there for now. Maybe and he had a failed coaching tenure already, so not that it was that bad at Missouri. He did fine, but if is he able to cycle through coordinators? That's the next question, but maybe he won't need to.
Yep. All right, number 7, Billy Napier of Florida. Napier, he was a little tough to grade just considering we've all thought very highly of him when he was at Louisiana, but now he's jumping into the deep end with the Gators and the SEC. I think outsiders or the casual fan might have put him towards the bottom, but the fact that he was picky, waited for a job like this, makes me somewhat confident he can make this work, as he was kind of betting on himself. He brought it in, when he was at in the Sun Belt, he brought in the best classes that conference had seen. Don't see why he couldn't land good classes at Florida, because Florida generally also kind of recruits itself. He had a 33-5 record the last 3 seasons with 2 bowl wins. Very impressive, no matter where you are. And Michael, you had him a touch higher than us. Is it more your obsession with him, or are you more confident it'll pan out?
It's both. Yeah, I love Billy Napier. I just really believe in him as a coach, because just like guys like Kirby Smart and Mario Cristobal, I think he's in that mold where he is a committed, relentless recruiter. He's committed to building out kind of that Saban model, I guess, where it's he's got a big staff, and that's what he was waiting for, right? Like it seemed like he was the top guy on every SEC school's list. Every job that came up the past couple years seemed like they all wanted Billy Napier. And like you said, he was patient and he settled for Florida. Not settled. He eventually chose Florida, and they're going to invest in him. And I think it's going to go really well. 2 top 20 finishes in a row at Louisiana is crazy. And now with more resources, I think he'll build Florida up and do what Dan Mullen did not do. Maybe we don't know if he's as good a coach as Dan Mullen, but I feel pretty strongly that he's going to be a much better recruiter.
Yeah, putting him top half of the SEC coaching list is quite an accomplishment for a coach that has not coached in the SEC. So, yeah. But I'm not saying I disagree, but that's
it's aggressive. It's aggressive. It's kind of calling our shot there, but
yeah, a little bit.
There's a reason every SEC school, it seemed like every SEC school wanted him. Yeah. So
no, we're high on him, all of us. You're higher than most, but
number 6, we have Mark Stoops of Kentucky. His first 5 years or so there were fine, but they were actually kind of an identical record, almost identical to what they had been the previous 5 years. So it was kind of slowly trending in the right direction after taking over for Joker Phillips and previously Rich Brooks. But I wasn't fully bought in after those. You know, there was a couple 7 and 6 seasons in there. It's like, okay, that's fine, but I wasn't fully bought in. The last 4 years have gone extremely well. And that combined with the fact that they just pulled in a top 15 recruiting class, that is just a whole different level and giving them a whole different upside than they had before. And not just upside, because if he just continued winning the amount of games that he has the last 4 years, then that's great. But it would be hard to expect that if they didn't take a jump in recruiting. And they've done that. So obviously you would prefer a much quicker turnaround, like a James Franklin at Vanderbilt or even Sam Pittman at Arkansas. But you know, that it's still amazing what he's done there. So, I might have been too low on him previous couple of years, but I think I've come around.
I think you can settle with a slow turnaround when you're still like making bowl games. You know, that's okay. Yeah. Right. You're not struggling and really that bad. So, yeah, Stoops is deserving, man. He's at Kentucky, not the easiest place to win, and he's got them strong. He's very consistent. I got to give him credit, man. He's figured it out, even with sometimes he doesn't have a quarterback that can throw, still wins games. All right, let's move on, though. We got number 5.
With Bowden, though.
It was pretty fun to watch. All right, number 5. We have Lane Kiffin from Ole Miss. I guess I was the highest on him, huh, fellas? So that surprises me. I thought you guys would, or at least Michael would put him up, but...
I know. Well, I mean, make your case, right? Because you had him ahead of the next guy. Should I just say who it is so we can kind of have a little discussion here?
Sure.
You had him ahead of Brian Kelly. So make your case there.
I'm trying to think about it from the moment on. I mean, you kind of mentioned that earlier with like in the previous episode. You got to think from here on. Not that Kelly's not going to do great, but he's at Ole Miss here. He led them to their first 10-win regular season ever. That's just an amazing accomplishment in his second year. Obviously done a great job. Recruiting is going pretty well, especially when you consider the transfer portal. He's hit hard on that and done a great job. Even before at Ole Miss, he did a great job at FAU. I like his on-field coaching. That may alter my opinion a little bit of his ranking, just the fact that he's so aggressive. I love his offensive style. He's fun to watch. He's kind of with the new age, and he just kind of goes with the metrics, and it's just, I love it. I don't know. I just think he's going to continue to have success. I don't see why he wouldn't, and maybe one time he'll leave there and go just even somewhere else, but I just think he set himself up for continued success.
I don't disagree with anything you said. And Trey and I think it was last year, maybe the year before, we got a lot of crap in the comments in the SEC rankings episode for having Lane Kiffin ahead of Coach O. You know, it seemed crazy that Coach O had won a national championship and we were higher on Lane Kiffin, but we just believed in him, and that has ended up. There's plenty of rankings we had that turned out bad, but that ended up well. So I can see the argument for him over Brian Kelly, but I couldn't get there quite yet. Trey, why don't you make the case for Brian Kelly at 4th?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing with Brian Kelly I will say is the only difficult part of it is we don't know how he'll fit in the SEC. But everywhere he's been, he's won. Grand Valley State, Central Michigan, Cincinnati, Notre Dame. Now he's getting into a little bit different region than those, but he's a winner at all those stops. Won 10 or more games the last 5 years at Notre Dame. We all know how tough and to win at Notre Dame, there's a lot of pressure, hoopla. And recently he started to up the recruiting there. I'm not saying he's going to be the savior at LSU. It might take a couple years as he overhauls the roster, but given his track record, it's hard for me seeing a scenario where it just kind of bombs, especially with the talent that he's getting at LSU.
Yeah. Yeah. And Ryan, your word of this week has been longevity. And that's what did it for me, putting Brian Kelly over Lane Kiffin. If Lane Kiffin has another great year with the now a new quarterback, then maybe I can have him jump BK. But I will say one thing I'm curious about for Brian Kelly is how's the recruiting going to go? Is he going to be at the level that LSU is used to in that top 5? Maybe it's getting competitive with so many great coaches at great recruiting schools. But
that's kind of the thing that worries me just a bit. It's LSU. It seems like it's less with the competitiveness able to just sell itself.
Maybe I don't know
to the extent it has in the past. It seems like
we'll see. But I will say one thing that does worry me slightly. Again, I had Brian Kelly 4th, so I'm kind of arguing against it, but I had him here, is that Notre Dame seems to have upped his recruiting since he left. Now, maybe it was kind of heading on that path anyway, but so Marcus Freeman is killing it there in a way that Brian Kelly was not quite able to on the recruiting front.
There you go.
Anyway, moving on to number 3, Jimbo Fisher of Texas A&M. First off, he inherited a kind of a down program at Florida State, quickly turned them around, had 5 straight double-digit win seasons, won a national championship, and then at A&M inherited a team that had averaged around 30th in SP Plus the first couple of years before he got there, and then year 1 under him they were 11th. He's averaged 12th in SP Plus since he's been there, which is very good. They were 1 spot out of the playoff in 2020. I think I think maybe people wouldn't have Jimbo Fisher quite this high. Some people, because they're like, well, he lost, 4 games his first year, 5 his second year, something like that. But I think that the brutal schedules his first couple years kind of masked the fact that he did dramatically improve the team. Like if you look at the metrics, the team got a lot better. They had to play Clemson in the non-conference both of those years, like number 1 Clemson. So that I think the win-loss total was not quite indicative of how good they were. But then 2020, he had the win total you would want, and then he just by the way, I'm the biggest thing. He just brought in the greatest recruiting class of all time.
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
There it is.
That has to count for something.
Yeah,
you can't be bad with that. Their talent's really starting to be upperclassmen now. His classes, so they'll be good. All right, let's move on to number 2, a clear and obvious number 2 here. We have Kirby Smart from Georgia. Just won a national title, lost in overtime in another. He's 66-15 there, 36-5 the last 5 years in SEC play. Just killing it there. And of course, he's recruiting extraordinarily well. Top 5 classes every single year. Really, I think it's been 4 or better in the last 3 or 4 years, something like that. So he's killing it. He's done a great job. The defense is always amazing. If he can maybe just get a little more offense, even though their offense was pretty good, but to get to that elite level, like Bama's offense, pair it with his defense, woo! But, clear number 2.
And the thing that is amazing about him is he completely elevated Georgia to another level because, Mark Richt was very good. Georgia was very good year in and year out, but the fact that he was able to take it one step further and be this elite is a testament to how good he is and on the recruiting front.
And it happened quickly. Second year was a play away from the national title.
Yeah.
Happened very quickly.
Yeah.
Dude.
So leads to number 1, of course. A lot of suspense here. The GOAT, Nick Saban. We know all the accolades, the national titles, SEC titles. But I went back and looked at his year-by-year record at Alabama, and it's just silly. Only once since 2008 have they had a year where they had 3 losses. And, the other thing is when you look at how long his coaching tree is, Alabama never misses a beat, despite he loses a coordinator or 2 almost every season, and they're still just they're relevant on offense and defense.
Yeah.
What happens if Kirby Smart beats him again and wins the SEC and he goes an national title? Still going to have Saban above him?
Yeah. It's going to take more. It's going to take more than that.
More than 2 years.
I mean, even
last
just
year,
this year, Saban beat him in the SEC title.
Yeah. The combined score of those games, Alabama won. So, yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Kind of random that Georgia won the one that mattered more, but either way, it would take, to answer your question, it would take at least a couple more years of Georgia beating Bama, and probably convincingly for that to
Fair
change.
Yeah.
And even that. Anyway, let's get a look at the full list here. Bryan, what stands out to you?
It just has to be the best group of coaches per any conference out there. I mean, there are some good coaches on this list that are way down that you would just be like, really? You have that guy, Shane Beamer at 13, and he just had a pretty inspiring first year and seems to have a lot of good things going. It's like, well, sorry. I mean, there's just so many other good coaches out there. So that's just the immediate thing that comes out. But the other thing was just, I think we texted among this earlier, guys. It's just, we agreed this wasn't the hardest conference to rank as far as coaches. It kind of came together relatively well. Sure, there were a couple where it's like, but overall, I was like, yeah, there was pretty clear things you could point to that made the list relatively easy to put together.
Yep, it is the best. I would say maybe the Big Ten, after having this whole rankings week, maybe the Big Ten was second, but I think the SEC is comfortably ahead.
Kind of just goes hand in hand with the quality of the conference, I mean.
It does, yeah.
It's what it is, right?
And it seems like, I mean, the SEC has upgraded their coaches in the past couple of years. I mean, just Sam Pittman seeming to hit at Arkansas is crazy. Leach coming from Wazoo.
Heupel, maybe,
Heupel is better than we expected, at least after year one. They just
Beamer too.
Yeah. So anyway, it's and the top of it is insane, because the top four there, you could argue, are four of the top 6 or 7 coaches overall in the country.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because I was going to say that the top 5 isn't fair. Like we know the top 2, but then Jimbo, Bryan Kelly, Lane Kiffin, any of those guys would be in the top 2 or 3 of just about every other conference. It's amazing.
Yeah. Pretty crazy. Well, that'll do it for our head coach rankings week. Be sure to subscribe, like I said earlier, because next week we're going to put all the coaches together, add in the G5, and do the top 20 coaches overall. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, your biggest disagreements in this SEC rankings list. I do really want to know, who is too low? Who do we
Napier
have too low?
Is going to be.
You think they're going to say Napier's too high?
Napier. Yeah.
That's fair. We'll see. Anyway, let us know, and we'll see you next time.
You've been watching the College Football Bros. Be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and in your podcast app for college football content all year round. For bonus episodes and access to our Discord chat, join our Patreon at patreon.com/collegefootballbros. Thanks for watching.